Welcome back to Modern Art Blitz. I'm your host, Matt Gleason. My guest right now, a legend, I want to say in Los Angeles, but internationally. The writer, the blogger, there's got to be a better word for it.
A fellow.
The fellow.
A citizen.
TOSH BERMAN.
Pleasure, thank you.
Welcome.
What a privilege to be here.
Well, okay.
This is like the ultimate of my life right now.
Yeah,
My moment.
I'll take it as I think I'll take it as a
You
compliment.
should, because I really
So, Tosh, I've longtime fan, and I follow both of your blogs, Tam Tam Books, and it's just your blog of your record collection, right?
Yeah.
What do you call it?
TOSH BERMAN's CD and vinyl collection, I think.
Great, great. Now, you published a book that I was fascinated with, and I scheduled you today. Today's Father's Day, and this book in a peripheral way is about Father's Day. It's called June 1st, 2014. Now, 3 years ago, you published this book. And we can see on the cover of it here, is it a you call it a handmade book, handmade paper?
First of all, I have to give credit to Jim Camp, who this is like his publishing, and he approached me to do this.
To do this book, okay. So I first read the content that is in your book, June 1st, 2014, on your, actually on Facebook, and then it links over to your blog. And the story is basically, it's a pretty simple story, is your father is one of the many faces on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
That is very true.
Tell us the story. It's a fascinating story.
Interesting, sort of it's a very mysterious story in a sense. All I could tell you is that I was in the house, I was like about 10 years old at the time, and my parents were out of the house, with just me in the house, and from the mail I received this envelope from London, England. And for me, as 11 or 10-year-old, London, England seemed to be like King Arthur's court or something very romantic and incredible. So I wasn't supposed to open my father's mail, but of course I did. And I opened it, and what came out was this strange black and white photograph, which I couldn't tell what it was. It looked like a funeral image of some sort. And I couldn't make out any of the faces, including the Fab Four, the Beatles. And I immediately called my father. He was, I think, playing a card game with Dean Stockwell at the time. Very close friend of my parents. And I said, Dad, you got this mail from London, England. And he said, well, what is it? And I said, well, it's this black and white photograph, and there's a letter to it. And he said, well, can you read me the letter? I'm a good son. I follow my father's instructions quite well. So I said, I read it, and it was actually from Brian Epstein, who I knew.
The Beatles manager.
Who I knew at the time of being the Beatles manager.
You knew who he was?
Definitely. I was a big Beatles fan.
Okay.
And I just thought, well, it's from Brian Epstein. And then he said, what do you want? So he's asking you permission for something. And he said, well, what is it? And I said, there's a photograph here. And I'm over the telephone trying to describe the photograph. And I said, it looks like a funeral, maybe, or some type of gathering. And it's there's four guys and wearing like sort of vaudeville army jackets. And he asked me, who are these four guys? He's saying, I didn't know. And this is very strange, because at the time there's the revolver Beatles. They look very clean cut.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't have any facial hair.
And they're like, there's a guy wearing glasses, and they had facial hair. And then very slowly I went, that looks like John Lennon, maybe. And then oh my God, it's the Beatles. Brian Epstein, the Beatles. Bing, got the connection. And then I still couldn't figure out what they're asking for, or what. It wasn't very clear. It didn't say, we're asking permission for you, Wallace Berman, to be on the cover of Sgt. Pepper. It didn't even mention the album title or anything. I don't think they even mentioned the Beatles. And then I kept, I focused on the photograph as I was talking to my dad. And then I said, oh my God, there's a picture of you. You're one of the faces here.
Wow.
And I said, Dad, I think they're asking you permission to use your face for something involving the Beatles. And this was like a 15, 20-minute conversation. And I think within 10 minutes, my dad was losing interest in the conversation.
He wanted to get back to the card game.
Yeah, exactly. So he said, I'll look at it when I get back home. So he looked at it when he got back home, figured out what it was. What Brian Epstein was requesting, as soon as possible, please sign the contract and mail it out. And my dad ignored that.
And your dad was a beatnik, so we can't be too surprised.
Yeah, time is not. There's beat time and there's real time.
And okay.
And there's Beetle time, apparently. And so my father, he totally ignored it. And then Brian Epstein wrote these incredible telegrams like, sign, stop, the
sign,
telegram. Contract, please. And then, of course, my father ignored that as well. So finally, like, Brian Epstein just wrote this begging, please, just do this. And he signed it, and that is what we know.
And can we, there's your dad right there.
That is him.
That's Wallace
right
Berman.
Yes, it is.
Wow. Now, it's ironically, almost every other photo, in fact, every photo I've ever seen of Wallace Berman, he had a beard.
I never thought of that, but you are correct. There are a lot of photographs with him.
There are very few photos that I recall of ever seeing him.
But funny enough, when you say that, I think my father without a beard, with that image, that's my dad's image to me.
That's how you remember your dad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking there's like book covers and stuff. I mean, collected. Mm-hmm. And so now this is 1967.
Yeah. So it's kind of what's, over. In the era of the early rock history era or the beat era, nobody talks about how things happen. It just happens. So my dad never asked, well, gee, how did this happen? He was not.
So you have no idea.
No.
Like, did the Beatles collect Wallace Berman artworks?
We didn't know. But over time, and I mean like many years later, I sort of presume that one of the Beatles' people was this art dealer by the name of Robert Fraser.
Okay.
And Robert Fraser had a gallery in London, I think from 65 to 1970.
Okay.
That was a very prominent gallery of like showing British artists, pop artists, or contemporary artists at that time. What made Fraser unique is that he was very close to the Rolling Stones and the Beatles world, and all the offshoots of those two worlds together. And Robert was an amazing person. He, of course, went to America, and you think at that time you just go to New York, because New York was the capital of the art world.
Totally, yeah.
But
people did not talk about LA as, I mean, it's a new phenomenon that people say, hey, LA is one of the centers of the art world.
But Robert Fraser actually went to Los Angeles and find artists.
So interestingly enough, there's another LA artist who we assume Fraser got onto the cover, Larry Bell.
Larry Bell, yeah.
And one of the last surviving people on the cover.
Yes.
There's 60-some people on the cover of Sgt. Pepper.
Yes.
When the album was released, 23 of them were still alive.
Yes, wow.
Okay. 5 are still alive now. Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Larry Bell, the singer Dion.
Dion, yes, the great Dion.
And Bob Dylan.
It's an interesting group of people. I mean, that was kind of mind-boggling of that time, or still is. You get everybody from Aleister Crowley to Mae West.
Yeah.
On one picture.
Truly, it was like to me, it was one of the many births of postmodernism.
Yes, it's incredible.
The equalizing of the playing field of creativity.
And my dad slightly knew Peter Blake.
Peter Blake designed the album cover, yes. And did Peter Blake show at the Robert Fraser Gallery?
I think he did.
Okay.
But my dad also knew Michael Cooper took the photograph of that album. And but I believe the key person was Robert Fraser. Definitely Robert Fraser brought Larry Bell, perhaps Harry Southern.
Okay.
And my dad.
Just a few people filling out from, because I know the Beatles each made a list.
Yeah.
This is like, and George Harrison, all he put on were a bunch of gurus in India, and he told Brian Epstein, there's no way you're going to have to send them a letter. They aren't going to care. So records and music are a passion of yours. And as a writer, your blog, now do you write every day about an album?
Well, I try as much as possible. The series, this June 1st, 2014, was for 1 year. Like I decided on a Christmas Eve party, a New Year's Eve party that, I was kind of feeling a little down, a little drinking, and I thought, starting January 1st, tomorrow, I'm going to write a piece, essay, fiction. I'm going to post it on Facebook and my blog by 11 o'clock that day.
At 11 in the morning?
Yes.
Oof, man, you're an early riser.
So, January 1st, I wrote a piece. I don't even read, I barely even read the piece. I just write it, put images together. They all have images. And every day from January 1st, 2014 to December 31st, 2014.
And they were long pieces. We're not talking about a Facebook post here.
No.
I mean, they were like 1,000 words.
Yeah, I think probably the longest like a little bit over 1,000 words, and maybe the shortest would be like 600 words.
So you chose June 1st to tell the story about Sgt. Pepper because it was the anniversary.
Yes.
That was the day that it was released in England.
That was the day it was released.
Okay. So now your blog, do you do an album a day?
I try to as much. It's basically records from my collection, and I'm totally obsessed of keeping a record of my records on Discogs. Is that the website?
There's a website, Discogs, where you can say, I've got all these.
That's what I do.
Okay.
I basically make sure I do have that right edition and it's there online. And I use it basically not to show other people, but I'm more interested for me just for my memory than what I have.
It's much more personal. Great way to catalog. Now, how many records do you own?
Under 2,000. No, like, I mean, that's a lot, but not like, I'm not crazy.
There's some people that are just it's too much.
But I wanted to document, I decided to keep a blog to document every record I own by writing something about it.
Okay.
A commentary, not a review.
Your Desert Island disc.
Probably Three Penny Opera album with Lottie Lenya singing the Kurt Weill, Bertolt Brecht songs.
Wow.
Because that's the first record I ever heard.
Your favorite rock album?
This is what I heard today, actually.
SR2!
SR2 is my new favorite.
Your new favorite?
Yeah,
okay.
I really love that piece of music that's made here.
So name some bands that, who's the most overrated band in rock history? That everyone looks up as a pantheon that you just think, if they never existed, music would not have been affected plus or minus.
I don't have like a problem, but it's, you know, like some Radiohead I have a problem with.
I'm with you on that. Fist bump! Woo! Sorry, kids!
I don't dislike Radiohead. I just don't, I think...
I don't get the worship. Exactly. It's like, it's an okay band, but it's like, why Radiohead and not like, I mean, they're kind of like, to me, like, they're not like REM maybe? Like,
I tell you, if I only like bands that wear makeup.
You like bands that wear makeup?
Yeah, that's my thing.
Like Kiss? New York Dolls? I mean, help me out here.
New York Dolls for sure. Kiss, no.
No Kiss albums.
There's a limit.
There's not going to be on your blog any Kiss albums, really?
I have no Kiss albums.
No Kiss albums?
New York Dolls are perfectly fine, but like, you know, I love all the glitter, glam stuff. I love, of course, Bowie as a goddess to me, or a god. I love the Velvet Underground, but I love you know, I like Sweet, I like Mud, I like all this sort of...
in the 60s, let me ask you, I'm a little younger than you. Mm-hmm. The Velvet Underground was not really known in the 60s, right? I mean, when was the first time you heard the Velvet Underground?
My dad had the record.
He did. He had the Banana record.
Yes.
Well, that's pretty hip because...
My dad had the first Fugs album, he had the first Velvet Underground album. He had the first, you know, he had like the Ken Beefheart's Trout Mask replica. You know,
Thule Kupferberg, the leader of the Fugs, did cartoons for Coagula Art Journal for a couple of years.
That's excellent.
He was great. He was
he
was so great, so anti-art, just free. Here, take them all. I said, what are we going to do? No, just publish them. I don't care.
But my dad had a very good antenna for like new music.
Really?
To the day he died, he caught things through his brain waves, sound waves, ears. They're like incredible.
And you are you technically the estate?
I am the estate. I am the owner.
And there's been biographies of Wallace Berman?
Not officially. No.
Not officially? Is there somebody working on a Wallace Berman biography?
Not right now.
Not right now?
Actually, in truth, I wrote a memoir of my childhood years.
Okay.
It's called Beat Boy. It'll be published by City Lights.
City Lights next year, right?
Yeah, in the end of 2018.
Because you grew up around a lot of people who were immortal, even though they have passed on. What you said your dad was playing cards with Dean Stockwell.
Yes.
I mean, and you're just a kid. You're Wallace Berman's kid. So did everybody treat you nice?
Oh, I was abused. I mean, just not only sexually, but just mentally. And no, I was treated very well. But
I mean, some people are nice. Some people are classy, but some people just don't like kids. Or
you know, I knew a lot of actors, and the only person I won't say made a presence, but it's kind of strange, was a Billy Gray who played Bud in Father Knows Best. I don't know if anybody here has seen Father Knows Best, but
that's going way back.
But Billy Gray played Bud, and I can't tell the difference between Bud and Billy Gray.
Okay.
So when I see him watch Father Knows Best, I'm watching Billy Gray. Uh-huh. But I knew that was a TV show. This was more like 4 or 5 years old. But this distinction between TV and real life was kind of a shadowy area for me. So I had to sort of figure out, okay, that's a character he's playing.
So were you like a Father Knows Best fan? I mean, at the time there wasn't much to choose from.
It was a show for me to know what normal people did.
Because you were living basically a bohemian existence with bohemian parents.
Yes, extremely so. So I didn't. So like Father Knows Best, My Three Sons, were kind of like my window, what's kind of a
into their world.
Well, their world of what's happening outside my house.
Do you think that the world now for the average, I say the average kid, is more bohemian? It's a more bohemian world? Is it or is it back to the conformity of the 50s and early 60s?
That's a good question. You know, I'm not, in an odd way, my family structure was very tight. I had a father and I had a mother. So there was that foundation. But there's so many people I was raised with, and to this day, they don't have a single mom or a single father or no parents at all. So it's, you know, I think when you think about an era or think of what happened on TV, that's not really real life. Real life is people only have a single parent, and they're, you know, they're dealing with everyday occurrence of that.
So when the book comes out, are you? I mean, the City Lights? I mean, I'm looking at them as kind of a legendary and yet small independent press. I mean,
yes.
they're not booking the City Lights jet to get you out to New York for the book signing.
I'm going to do every book
Charlie
signing.
Rose. I mean, help me
I'm
out
going to
here.
do Charlie Rose. I'm going to do your show again if you invite me. I hope. I'm going to do. I want to do. You know, the Tonight Show. I want to do.
Is the PR left up to you?
David Susskind show. I want to do Johnny Carson.
You want to be Johnny Carson? We'll get out the Ouija board and talk to Johnny.
I want Johnny Carson. If Stuart is going to have a TV show, I want to be on that.
You want to be on the Stuart Sweezy Hour.
I actually want to have a talk show and have the band be the band for the talk show.
The band interviews. The band interviews the guests, and you can sit there.
Well, that'd be the music. I'll be the talk show host, and they can do the music.
Do you play any instruments?
No.
No music.
No.
Just a fan.
I did like music concrete compositions. Just out of computer stuff about 5 years ago.
Yeah? Any performances, public performances?
No, but I did 100 pieces and I stopped.
Oh wow! And you don't make art yourself?
No, I never felt like I never felt a need or felt a desire to actually do visual art.
So we thus introduce you, the writer Tosh Berman. Yeah.
I'm like Prince. I do everything a little bit, but yes, the writer Tosh.
Do you have a slogan, a logo that in the artist formerly known as Tosh Berman?
Yes, right here. But I was also I published. I have a press called Tam Tam Books.
Okay, now you have a Tam Tam blog.
Yes, that's
and what is a Tam Tam blog? Do you go into books in your book collection?
Yeah, well, sort of. But I start the blog basically just to promote the artists and the writers who are part of the Tam Tam Books. I focus on French post-war literature. So I focus people like Boris Vian, who's sort of the prince of Saint.
Are you doing the translations?
No, I get a translator. You
get a translator?
Yeah.
Does anybody ever say, "Hey, that translator got it wrong"?
All the time. All the time. Because the writers I do Guy Debord, and I do. I'm pointing to Stuart because he did a Guy Debord book. Did he Guy Debord book? I can't remember. But you know, when you do like difficult writers like Vian, Guy Debord, and I did Serge Gainsborough, those are very textual writers. So of course.
And French is it's a pretty muddy. It gets pretty muddy there.
It can be, but it's also, you know, what a translator is doing is basically rewriting the book. You know, it's like you're just being told to in a way.
They have to add their own poetry.
Yeah,
right?
and even doing like translating Serge Gainsborough's lyrics is very, very difficult. It's not like, you know, there's layers that he's dealing with.
What is the book market today? Are you doing Kindles or it's
I hate
only
that
print?
stuff.
You hate that? Okay,
yeah, I don't like Kindles. I don't like, you know.
I mean, it's funny because you're old school, but yet you're blogging. I mean, you're blogging every day.
Yeah.
You're very diligent on Facebook.
I love blogs. You know, to me, a blog is a blog. A book is a book.
Wow.
I love blogs, but blogs are not a book, and a book is not a blog. I keep that totally separate. Same with things like listening to stuff on vinyl is vinyl, CDs are CDs, MP3s are MP3s.
Which do you prefer?
I prefer vinyl because I really listen to the music more.
Is it a deeper sound?
It's not only a deeper sound, but also you're forced to change the record over, clean the needle. It's more of the process is very important to me.
Are books selling well?
I think so.
Yeah, and so Tam Tam. Do you end up selling on Amazon? I mean, do you have it?
Amazon carries.
And is that like, did they take over? Is that it, or small bookstores still, or?
Small bookstores do exist, and as much as possible, I deal with the small stores as much as possible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And commensurate sales relative to effort.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very wealthy man because of my publishing. I mean, to be honest, I became rich. I became rich promoting Boris Vian and my blogs.
Well,
very wealthy.
Well, when we get ready to take Modern Art Blitz to the next level, we're going to the Bank of Tosh Berman. Tosh, thanks for being a guest on
my pleasure.
Modern Art Blitz in 2018. Say the name of the book again.
Beat Boy.
Beat Boy. Look for it on from City Lights Books.
Yes.
In 2018.
Yes.
We will be back right after this.
Do you look good naked? Do you think you should? Sharks swim around.